know, I wish it was under better circumstances that we're having to do this, but it's rare. And then I think it's one of the things that makes BCT and Design Group a special place is because it's all about family. And I think times like this are really the real test of what a family means. And I think the way we all can come together and think about all the people that we work with every day. They're friends, they're like our brothers and sisters. And Hilman was a very special person to us, and especially to all of us, because we worked with them for the last 23 years in some way or another. And so I'm really blessed to have everybody else here today. You never know who's not going to be here tomorrow. So we count every day as a blessing. And we were fortunate to have Hilman work with us for all the years and times that we did. And it's been sad, very sad for us that he's gone. We do have Raka here, his son, and Zara, his daughter, here. I want to thank them for coming. They came all the way at least from Virginia. And it's got to be especially hard for them, too, as part of our family. And I really wanted to appreciate all the things that Hilman's done for us today through these slideshows of all of the projects that he's touched around the world and had an influence on around the world, which is remarkable. And not just at large-scale things across the world in different countries, but also close at home. And I was fortunate to work with him only on a couple of little projects, and they were tiny little interiors projects. And that was one of the things I found remarkable about Hilman, was that he could jump from a master plan project down to something as small as this room, and he could design the hell out of it and put so much thought into what he was doing. And even though he was a quiet guy, we were talking a little bit earlier, he spoke with his designs. His designs speak volumes. And so to me, I was really appreciated my time working with him, and I know all of you did too. And I know that a couple of others have a couple of things they wanted to say, but feel free to speak up, tell us about your experiences. I know Raka and Zara would love to hear, the other 8 hours or 12 or 15 hours a day that he was working with his other family, what it was like to work with him. But I know especially for me, it was a real treat to be with him. So thank you for coming. Thanks for everybody who's online with us as well. You're welcome to speak up, raise your hand, and we'll try to get your time on the clock here as well. So thanks again, and here's to Hilman. Really appreciate everything he did for us, and God bless him.
Cheers. 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 As we did, Hilman started actually 23 years ago today, back in 2001. Came to us through this exchange program that we had with the University of Bandung, and we got other great people from there. They're in the room as well and stuff. And I guess the intention was always for people to go back and exchange skills and stuff, and he never did, lucky for us, with his family and stuff like that here. But Hilman was a really incredible person, and we could all be so lucky to be like Hilman, have so many people show up and say such great things about him and stuff. So I wrote down a couple of things and stuff. Hilman was such a gentle soul. He influenced so many projects around the world, as you see on the screen, and he touched so many lives in his just great demeanor. Very talented, hardworking, and very forward-thinking. He was probably one of the most positive people I knew in the office. Things didn't rattle his cage. He always stayed very cool and collect, and always had a phenomenal positive attitude. In fact, we called Hilman our secret weapon, because Hilman just kind of came out of the blue and just took care of everything. Hilman worked a lot with Raj, and Raj wears his heart on his sleeve and is sometimes emotional and stuff, but Hilman was Hilman was your calming voice that helped you get through everything, as with everyone else and stuff. So, phenomenal guy under pressure. Hilman was a model for positivity. The guy had nothing bad to say. The glass was always half full, never half empty and things. One thing that we talked about was that every morning when he walked in, he would specifically come over and say good morning. And before he left every evening, he would stop by and say good night. And I thought, that's incredible. All those little things that he did, I thought were so meaningful and so memorable. And he was such a great guy about all that stuff. He always thought of others before thinking of himself. And he had a wonderful smile and a gracious man about him. He was very much of a family man as well. He was so proud of you and your career and what you did at Maryland, and with you getting accepted into Northeastern University in Boston. The only thing he boasted about was his family and stuff, and he was very, very proud of you guys and talked about it a lot. He really was a caring guy. Like I said, one of the most caring guys I knew. And he had a love for many, many things in life, including his birds and his avian photography. And if you ever found yourself at a lull, or if it was something quiet, you could ask Hilman about his photography, and he just kind of lit it all up. And he really enjoyed those weekends and days, the kind of we go damn, wade in the water. And he was always so very modest about his photography. I'm like, Hilman, are you gonna have a gallery? Are you gonna have a show? He's like, oh, I can't do that. I'm just starting. And he's been, he was such a great photographer and things like that. So, so as we bid farewell to Hilman today, I just want everyone to think about how great he was and how about he inspires all of us to be a better person, to take time and to be caring and be gentle and things. So I think we're all lucky to have him. And for me, I'm going to remind myself to be more like Hilman every day of my life. Raj?
Yeah, thank you for coming. I can see Hilman getting ready to take some photographs. Or he's setting his camera, all the occasions. Of course, it's not one of them. And I worked with him for almost 21 years, non-stop, on all the projects which I did. Just few projects which I didn't work with him when he was busy with other people. So traveled with him, and I could really depend on him, and I was telling Raka and Linda that the last few years, we understood each other so well, my expectation for and what he could do, and remember that so many trips to Indonesia, I'll work till like 2 a.m. on Friday night, and I had a flight at 6 in the morning, and he will be the only person who will be making sure that package is ready and full. We have to take a lot of drawings and books, and I'll be traveling alone. And so I could depend on him. It is something which is very rare, having a relationship like that. And of course, you all had great relations with him. Like Saad traveled with him, I traveled with him, and we all worked, and he left a incredible positive impression on all of us. He was mentored when I informed some of our old colleagues who were younger, and like Vic and other people, and they said that all they learned in the first job was from him. So I really couldn't miss him. Thank you.
Which is currently on pause, but I'm excited to get it back going again, hopefully later this year, because it'll be a great opportunity to take something that Hilman had such a strong part of in his design. And I think one of the great things that I remember with overall the master plan in Charlotte is we were working on our site plan, and Dan and Raj and Bob and me, and we're working through it, and all of a sudden, I come in the next morning and he's like, let me show you something. And we go up to his screen, and he's done a 3D animation and a walkthrough and a whole video of this amazing project that we have that, we had asked him to do sort of this little bit, and he just took it, and it was, 10 times as wonderful as we had even asked for. And to be able to share that with a client and go up, with, we're working with SOM, we're working with Snowhead, we're working with, I'm so proud of BCT and what we have, and, saying, hey, we're working with these big names, and let us show you what we can do. And I really attribute that absolutely to Hilman. And so everything that he did and all that has already been said about him, about the positivity and the quietness and those aspects that I really didn't know him until I got on this project, and I really just wish I had so many more projects ahead of us. So I really appreciate holding on to that one special one that I had that great opportunity to work with him, and I'm going to do my best to, sing that project forward and just make it his resemblance.
I will say that Hilman created probably one of the best games of Where's Waldo I've ever gotten to play in my life. Because going through, we have an amazing archive of photos, and we do a lot of things as a group and a team and a family of designers together and creatives. And going through the archive and trying to find Hilman in the photos was an experience because he was so passionate about his photography that he was the photographer for most of our events. So when you're the photographer, you're never on the other side of the lens. Well, he found a loophole. He would set up his camera and sneak around and be standing in the back of the group, and the photo would go, and then he'd go like look at it and do a few more. But from every event we have that he was the photographer, there's one or two random shots where you'll just see him pop up, and you're like, wait, I thought he was photographing. But it was a really great experience just going through the, however many years of images, kind of finding him in there.
So, yeah, 34 years. He is my classmate. We went to school together in ITB, and we were roommates as well. So, after we graduated from ITB in 1995, we shared a house. We ran a house together again, and then start our new studio, architectural studio. We're still young, and with all that craziness and that stuff. So, 1998, there's a financial crisis hit in Indonesia. So I was lucky to arrive in US. I worked at PDP in 1999, and I asked Hilman to join me that time. Took me 2 years to convince him because he always like, America is so far. It's on the other side of the globe. So I want to go to Singapore first, or Australia first. But finally, 2001, Hilman and his family arrived in US along with Nikki and Rizky at that time. So there's 9 Indonesian employees at DDG at that time. So it was fun. And actually, when Hilman arrived with family, their apartment is not ready. So I live in Wyman Park apartment near Dustin's house that time, and we shared an apartment, a small apartment for almost a month after his apartment ready, so he could move in. So, and actually Raka and my son, repeating the history, they are work at the same company, and they were living in the same apartment as well. So it's just repeating the history, and then actually they're planning to rent a house. They're looking for the house near their office, but time changes. But Hilman is a fun guy. We always want to have everyone happy with his joke. Always big smile. When he meets someone, he always like smile and telling you a joke. And he never say no when somebody asks a favor or help. And when he did that one, did like really perfect, just really neat and just really perfect. And sorry. Now he is active in Indonesian community. Trying to help the Indonesian community, and I want to make sure that his legacy and his goal achieved. You will be missed, my brother.
Hilman was very calm and quiet, and I get to know everybody in these offices and everybody's different personalities and such. Hilman would never call me unless it was something probably important. And one day, long before we had Teams and all, email was not as big as it was, Hilman called me and he's like, there's something wrong with my machine. And I was like, okay, I'll get to it. And I'd say about a minute later, this is back at DDG, by the way, he calls me back, he's like, I think you need to come over, there's something really wrong with my machine. And when Hilman calls twice, I know it's something I need to perk up on. So I get about halfway there and I can see there's smoke coming from it. And so I decided to get in gear a little bit more, and luckily it was just a fan in his graphics card that the bearings had gone, and I said, Hilman, next time, please let me know that your machine's smoking when you call, and not just say, okay, I'll see you in a little bit. But that was Hilman. He never would get too high. He was very even keeled, even if the machine was on fire. You know, I look back at all of my great Indonesian friends, and I just, you know, I always will appreciate Hilman and his calmness, and I know how great of a father he was, and I'm very lucky to spend the last well over 20 years working with him. So please understand my condolences and such.
Yeah, there's a theme there for sure that we're all hearing. What is it, the saying of, if you can be successful if you can keep your head about you when everybody else is losing theirs. In our profession, and while I've been away from it for 6 years now, I'm certain it hasn't changed, whether it was from college or all the way through. There's always deadlines. There's always, you know, there's not always that extra time that you need, and those last couple weeks, and certainly to the quality level that this firm puts out, and back even in the day at DDG, that was always a very high priority for us. Whatever left the office was of the highest caliber it could be, and that in turn put a lot of stress on all of us to reach that, to make sure we met that standard, and it was a high standard, under time and under stress. And it's one thing to be a calm employee every day and say good morning and good evening. It's another thing to be that employee when you're in that last week where, you know, you're the person keeping your head about you, because everybody else is definitely losing theirs. And that, yeah, that was Hilman. You know, that you needed that calmness, I guess, but there's something more than just calmness. It was just sort of an awareness that it was going to be okay. Maybe it was because he would always go the extra mile and do the way more than you expected, or that he was there to make sure the final package was, you know, to that standard that Raj said, you know, he could rely on him for. It was very calming to the rest of the team, to the rest of the studio, when Hilman, and often we borrowed Hilman in moments of stress, probably for his talents, but we were lucky enough to get that calmness on the team when it's probably most needed. And you can correct me if times have changed and it's not so hectic, but I think it still is.
Tidak masalah.
Tidak masalah.
This is responsibility. Tidak masalah.
No problem.
I have a couple words. I'm kind of the new person here, don't want the hair confusion, to meet Hilman. And I didn't understand what Hilman was about. He was quiet. I heard him speak in his native tongue a few times on the phone, I assume with family or friends. But I think a takeaway that we all have to think about is this man was a competent person here at work. Extraordinary from what I hear. But he had a level of detail as he walked through life with that camera. And when you see these bird photographs, these waterfowl, the amount of time and passion that he put in to capture those images. He and I took a walk, and we were talking about Conowingo and the cold weather, and it was a weekend. He was really excited, and I said, I have a friend of mine that does the same thing that you do that I would like to connect you with. And I don't know if they ever connected, but they were the people that went out in the dark of morning to get that one shot, the patience to get the bird coming in and just barely splashing the water with his wings. But the thing that I would stress to all of you is Hilman had passion for something outside of work. And the people that I've worked with here, I see a lot of passion in what they do. I start to hear the stories of children, where our kids screw up. But please try to find something to be passionate about, because we don't know what our end game is or our pathway is. And share it with somebody. Share your passion with somebody. Hilman told me several stories about his adventures of taking photographs, and he was so proud, and I could see the passion. And I'm so glad I had that small amount of time to share that with him.
I consider myself extremely lucky to have spent 15 years working with Hilman. Everybody talks so nicely about his courteous and amazing behavior, but one thing, and it sounds negative, but I promise it's not, is he bred so much competition in me because he was so talented. He was always cutting edge on design, technology, whatever it was. I mean, I remember coming here with a new program and being like, this is the new thing. And within 48 hours, he was, I'm trying to catch up. He was so skilled, and he was never idle. He was always taking that time to be better. And I just want to leave everyone with an amazing gem who still works here today. Yeah, I challenge you to go into our amenity library, all of our amazing little 3D stuff, couches, living rooms, independent buildings. Go into the properties and look who made it. I think it will shock you at how much of the content we still put in our models is his stuff. And so as architects, we get to do amazing things. We get to put buildings down that could last for forever. But I'm going out of my way to find all of his stuff and make sure it continues to be more stuff. So, thank you.
2.5 years ago, and when I first started, I was more accustomed to having like a real lunch break, and at the time it was when COVID was like, you can only congregate. And I'm telling you both because I want you guys to know how I was in the office. Him, Raj, and Saad, they always welcomed me to sit with them when I didn't really know many people in the office. So, you know, we talk about our food, they get to know me, I get to know them, and you know, it's just we're not in the same studios, we've never worked together, but because we had our lunch hour, it was really nice to be together and talk to him. And eventually, again, with the photos, he would send them to me because I would show him photos from Florida from my mom, because, you know, we like birds and stuff. So, you know, for the sake of having a window into how your father was, not only to a new employee, but also like a female counterpart that was also of an immigrant background, like that was different. You know, and I know that he related to me on that aspect, and there was a nice kind of kinship that was formed because of each other being open to just being transparent. So he was a very good man.
And it was Kapuk Naga. And for those that are not aware of that project, 7 islands off the coast of Jakarta. And we were under a major deadline, and Raj and Harris were running around with their heads chopped off. But Hilman, and their graphics have been grafted into their studio to just do their work with them. Like, not graphic stuff. Like, we were preparing elevations and other things because the project was so large and the delivery was so large. And I think I went to go ask Raj a question, and he was not in the position to answer. And Hilman just kind of came over and go, I'll show you. And so then from then on, every question I had, I went to Hilman. But that, you know, I mean, I don't know if we've spoken to it, but the fact that I'm coming into this project, don't know anything about anything, and this is like, I think 2 years into my work at DDG, and he was someone that you could always approach in that way and know that he would give you some type of level setting reassurance. It's gonna be okay, we're gonna get through this. And then I also say that he was the one that was there when they went home And when I went home, and when I came back, because we all had to come back very early because we weren't done, he was there. He was the first one there. So he definitely was not only a staple in this firm, but and its many iterations and histories, but also just a great person to work alongside.
It was a little bit awkward, I think. It was right after the merger, and I learned of his passion for photography, and a few months later I found myself in a position that I shouldn't have been on, but I volunteered to take photos for all my kids' soccer team, and also the entire team, because of somebody else who was supposed to do it had backed out of the deal. So I figured how hard can it be, so I literally set up a little tripod in the backyard and did a couple of test shots with my kids, and I quickly realized that I had no idea what I was doing. So I went to Hilman, and he took just a huge amount of time to show me some tips and tricks, and I was so grateful. But the next morning he came to my desk and he had written this little matrix, like a cheat sheet of f-stops, and the one thing I remember was 3 meters. He was like, get the kids to stand 3 meters from you, use these f-stops, and I think I took a couple of hundred photos because I went through every one of his little instructions to make sure I'd captured. And the photos turned out well, and I remember showing it to them, and he was just so excited and just so willing to share. And then he would show me some quick Photoshop tricks. He was just an amazing human being.
I'm prepared for this, by the way. Hilman was one of those incredible Indonesians that we have been fortunate enough to work with over these many years. Starting back, who knows when, I can't remember when I got on the plane and went to Jakarta. Our first project, Pondok Indah Mall with Ciputra, who was a big developer. I didn't realize quite how big he was, but anyway, they had an interest, I think, in a local firm there, Arconian, I think it's called.
Yes.
There were a lot of very talented folks there, and I came back. They hired us to do this project, but the reason I went there was because of an Indonesian, the very first one, that we never hired. His name was Wibisana. He was in the University of Minneapolis studying architecture, and he was doing a business degree and a master's in architecture at the same time. And he came to Baltimore, interviewed him, and he was brilliant. I mean, theory, but couldn't draw. My 2-year-old son couldn't draw. It was amazing. So he went back to Indonesia and got hired by this developer. And he said, oh, you should, this firm, they do shopping centers and other things. So I always use that, don't hire the first Indonesian you ever meet, because you never quite know where they're going to end up. And Wibisana became not just a friend, but a client, a big deal client. But that led to the ITB, the Institute of Technology of Bandung, where many of our Indonesian colleagues have emanated from. We still have, I think it's still in effect, we have a signed agreement that we would hire folks over for a period. And they weren't necessarily going to stay here, but many of them have. So in a way, I feel personally responsible for our Indonesian enclave that has evolved in Baltimore and you guys. And Hilman was a star in that class, if you will, absolute star. But something I've never quite figured out, why is it Hilman, with his phenomenal photography, his ospreys snatching the fish from the water at just that precise moment, and when you're cycling, this whole Paris with this cross-country cycling, photograph up the wazoo, movies, from the great photography. I don't know why. Why is that? You guys, you're just great. I mean, great. Yeah, he was very, very special. Special to me, special to all of us. And there's one photograph I need to slip in here about 4 o'clock this afternoon, but Saad and Hilman and myself downstairs in the lobby.
Mm.
There was a get together for some reason or the other. Maybe it was to do with the DDG launch, I can't remember. But he was very, very special, no question about it. A pleasure and a delight to work with. Truly was.
Wajah rembulan, hening sunyi sangat mencekam, desir angin